back with all its problems and dilemmas, and a big chunk of your mind to just park it. You know what to do with your back. Your shoulders open so your chest is slightly open. You're tucking your tummy a little bit so there's a little bit of pressure on the chakra just behind your navel. A bit of energy pushing the energy up to your heart. And relax your beautiful faces. And just gently play with the breath, being aware of the breath and the sensations around you until you can bring your mind pretty single-pointedly just on the breath. Whatever aspect of the breath your mind is on is okay. Just feel the movement, the pace, the rhythm of the breathing through the nostrils. Just the breath, wherever the mind goes. Once you become aware that it's gone somewhere else, just bring it gently back to the breath and see if you can feel the rhythm of the breath. Don't control it, because beneath that rhythm is also the stream of the movement of your mind. We'll get there soon. Now let's see if we can go a little deeper by doing the 7 preliminaries in a nice rhythm. You begin to follow the rhythm of your mind, beginning with a breath and then watching the underlying movement of your mind. See if we can syncopate it with, first of all, imagining the most perfect being you can imagine, your teacher, the Buddha, Jesus, any being that brings to mind an idea of the most perfected thing, and give it whatever shape or form that arises in front of you. The form is just a mental sensation of their presence, focus your mind on that form. If it's an image, focus your mind on that form and refine it. Look at the details. See if you can add other senses. can go to their highest quality, the thing about them that you revere the most. Feel a sense of honor in your mind for perceiving that in them. A kind of gratefulness for seeing it. Make them some kind of offering. Simple, powerful, loving. Then imagine the complexity of your mind, all the causes and conditions that brought about your mind as it is now, and see all the obstructions to goodness as a web following you behind, and connect it all together, connect all the dots. And together feel a sense of regret for having collected those causes, and a kind of joy for growing the ability to break away from them. Imagine that it's possible to remove completely any part of that web and all of it, so it never follows you again. And then imagine a similar web of crystal clear goodnesses that follow you behind every action of body, speech and mind you've ever made that is ripening into any goodness you perceive, and the ultimate goodness of understanding this a possibility out of the cycle of samsara. Imagine that web bright and expanding forward with you. And bring some kind of joy in your heart for having that capacity. And then joy for the people that you know that have a similar web of goodness, bringing about their current world. Just joy for it, joy. Condense all that goodness and ask your teacher to please always teach you so you can grow that web and disconnect from the darkness. And actually watch them agree to teach you at every turn. Whatever happens, they'll highlight the teaching for you so you can accelerate your path to enlightenment. Now ask them to always stay close, never leaving you, ever expanding. And as you do, watch them rise up and turn to face the same direction you're facing. Concentrate, get smaller and brighter until they rest just above the crown of your head. The intensity you feel at the crown of your head is every goodness, every teaching, every sign they'll highlight for you, dripping into your body. Now we'll actually do a little meditation, so if you need to adjust a little, that's okay. If not, stay fixed, it's nice. We're going to exercise two muscles now, two meditation muscles on a single pointed object. So first, imagine that complex web of bright goodnesses that follows you always behind, the thing producing every goodness in your current world. See if you can sense a palpable, infinite courses of goodness, your deeds of body, speech and mind interwoven together, every good luck you've ever encountered, every virtue you've ever created. Think of it for this week, and this month, and this year, and this lifetime, even the impulses to do good before you were aware of doing good. Imagine them connected to your heart, trailing behind you, producing your reality in front of you. Intricately connected together. Every part where that web connects is a moment of goodness. Scan the web behind you, the one producing your goodness now. And just hop from moment to moment of goodness. See if you can recollect some great moments of goodness in your past, where you gave to another, where you listened to a friend, where you put your selfish needs aside for someone else, where you concerned yourself with another person's feelings. Just joyfully look at every goodness connected in that web. Just scan it for a minute or so, feeling joy. The web infinitely falls behind you, infinitely extending to no end. Your awareness is of the web in this life right now. That's what's in focus. I'd like you now to scan through that part of the web, the one that is accessible to you in memory from this life. And pick the most amazing virtue you've encountered, the greatest moment of goodness that can lead you to happiness. For me, it was a chance meeting with a teacher. And the circumstances that brought me there. Whatever it was for you, just bring your mind to that area of the web and watch all the causes and conditions that brought about that beautiful virtue, and how you are riding that wave of virtue now. as your mind has gotten closer to that part of your weapon, we're going to single-pointedly stay on it and just allow a tiny section of your mind to be watchful to not leave that single-pointedly. So if your mind goes off on a tiny tangent, just return it to this virtue, this goodness, this moment of magic. So long as you're thinking of that moment and the things that brought about that moment, you're on the object of meditation. Going to go a little deeper on that moment. I'd like you now to think of the power of that moment. Imagine if that karma and the things that brought it about became the very thing that defined your whole future existence. If it became the nirlangikya, the principal cause for all your future existence, if it grew exponentially, if everything came out of that karma, what your life would look like, what your thoughts would look like. What your capacity would look like. If that one karma grew and grew and grew. And slowly bring all that image, all those feelings into the center of your heart. All that power, all that potential. Rest it firmly at your heart. And it's guarded by your teacher just above the crown of your head. Connected to them and guarded. Growing. Producing your reality and growing. Ready, you can come back to the room, collect your body. Thank you for that. How was that?
Boring.
Boring. Can you pass the Dharma to Uta, please?
That was really nice.
Thank you. I thought it was Uta is that beautiful lady over there. Sorry. Why don't you know? what if, right? What if you can connect to that all the time? What power? What power? So, we're on class 9, we've done 8 classes, and I'm going to quickly go through a skimming of each of the classes, because next week we'll do also a review and we'll finish with the actual beginning of the perfections. Yeah? So we started class 1 with the motivation of why study this text. Yeah? So we talked about there are forces we call karma, but I'd like to think of them as these forces that push this existence into being. And as soon as we're born, we're set to die. Everything is on self-destruct mode in this cycle called samsara. And it's not depressing, it's not terrible, it's just not, it's boring after infinite eons. I mean, it's boring. It hurts. Yeah, you get silly highs that go away, and then lows that also go away, for more highs that go away and more lows that go away. And that's not the only way to exist. With a little bit of logic, you can get past that. So we connected in class 1 with what's the motivation for studying this most amazing text called
Bodhisattva.
Great, written by
Master Shantideva.
Master Shantideva, right? Holy Master Shantideva, who speaks words through the passage of time to your consciousness to invoke a sensation that it is possible to be free of suffering. Otherwise we'd be schmucks walking around looking for the next fix of something else. He, along a great line of other amazing creatures, inject into your consciousness the capacity that you are not just this, that you can be infinitely more, and free from the ups and downs and the cycles. He and every magical being between the Buddha and you today. So that was class 1, and in class 2 we talked about bodhicitta in connection to the 5 paths, the 5 key spiritual steps of any great being that is ever going to get out of this cycle. We defined what bodhicitta was, etc. Do you remember that? Do you remember what's bodhicitta? Because we've got to see what is it we're studying. Yeah. So definitions.
State of mind to reach enlightenment.
For the sake of all being.
Thank you. For the sake of every living being.
I've been finding it really helpful to include myself in that. I sometimes forget because you can't help others until.
Perfect. Yeah. You are another living being to your own mind. You are also, yeah. And then that brings into question, right? How do you get there? Like, you could learn the best theory of piano, concert piano or something, never touch piano, and try and teach somebody else to remember all the things you've read, or what if you learned to play a little bit and then you taught them all the things until they became a great concert pianist? Or if you became a great concert pianist, which of those 3 is the best way to really get somebody to a state of great concert pianist? It's the last one. Right? It's to become that yourself. So you must be included in that. Good. And then it's this unstoppable force. So we talked about all the forces that cycle us here, right? The forces, so they're changeable. That's not the only way to exist. The idea that you can be free from these cycles is a real, tangible, practical thing. People have experienced it on this planet, beginning with this skin and this kind of mind. So it's a complete possibility for you, sitting in this room in 2014 in New York, with sirens and police and troubles and iPhones and aging, and all the other things that we get to also break free. But it takes an immense amount of power until it doesn't. Until it becomes such a habit that it's just the way it is. It requires no effort at some point. It becomes effortless. The last path being the path of no more learning, not really exerting. I mean, at some point you're not even exerting any energy in meditation, for example. I can't remember which of the 9 stages of meditation is. You can sit down and then instantly you're in. It's a habit. We are just habit forming consciousness, and whatever habit we're in is what we produce. So then this unstoppable force, this thing called bodhicitta, the complete wish to be free from this, is a thing that changes everything. So we learned a little bit about that. But before getting that, the text, Master Shantideva went, you've got to clear away that negativity, the negative net I meditated on. Because you've got following you behind just other habits. It's not that you're bad or mean or terrible or whatever. It's just a habit of seeing the world in a specific way, of engaging in the world in a specific way, and we've got them nominally and we've got them ultimately, and it's just cleaning that up. So you don't have that anymore. That's all it is, and it's not like a guilt trip or feel terrible, which is a way I interpreted, and many of us interpret these teachings of purification. Yeah. So he talks about you have to purify obstacles and generate goodnesses to get that unstoppable thing called bodhicitta, right? So in the purification part, in clearing away obstacles, he goes, before you do that, you've got to do 3 things. Do you remember that? So the preliminary to purifying is, there's 3 things you must do before you can even have the conception of being capable of truly purifying. Prostration, not prostration. Yeah. Which Evan says prostration. Refuge, taking refuge, and making offerings, right? Which is the 3 things. It's the 3 things you do before you sit down to meditate in the morning. Yeah. So it's the beginning of a daily practice. And then he goes, okay, and then purify. And then you do the 4 forces, but he taught the 4 forces in a different way that we taught them in the meditation course, in the karma course, Karma 5. So give me in any way, and the best way you remember purification, because this is the way to undo the knots of your perception of that negative karmic net that's following you behind. Yeah, your conception of it. How to undo the knot so that net part breaks free. The things following you behind, the black and the white and all the things in between, the negative ones, you get rid of them, untie them by applying these 4 forces. 1. Give me any order, I don't care.
Intelligent regret.
Intelligent regret, which is called the
Foundation.
The destruction force. And the foundation is
Refuge.
Refuge. And that's the way that Master Shantideva taught it, right? And I like the original way we taught it because it makes more sense to me too. And we had this little debate, right? Which is, first you get the foundation force, which is you push yourself, you've fallen down, face down on the concrete. You need a foundation to push yourself back up. And that is refuge and bodhicitta, right? Thinking about emptiness, thinking about bodhicitta, emptiness and bodhicitta. Yeah, to the best of your ability. We covered it in detail. We can do it next week or have a debate another time. And then you do the
Antidote.
No, the destruction force, right? Which is you generate regret, meaning you think truly how causes and conditions always must give you a result. And you've just planted the cause for something to get bigger in your state of mind that must produce an outcome. And that should give you a vomitous regret, going, I don't want that in my skin, I don't want that in my consciousness, I want to destroy that. Yeah? And then you do the restraint. You stop yourself from doing that again, and then you do the antidote, the reverse. Do something, which classically is meditate on emptiness, do Vajrasattva practice, emptiness. And why is emptiness at all the most, why is emptiness the main thing that we always focus as the antidote? Even whilst you're taking care of another life because you killed it, why is emptiness a real antidote? Why can it save you? It's also true when it's refuge.
Because it forces out ignorance that causes
So
all
two,
the things that
great. So two things can't be in one place. That's a nice way to look at it. Yeah.
Which
Good.
force is this called again?
Antidote. Yeah. And then the other way that it was explained, you think about this. If you were in a, so how does it force it out? If you were in a state where you understood the emptiness of the object at that point, you couldn't do a stupid thing anymore. You couldn't do any non-virtue that would cause anything or anyone any harm. Therefore, never planting the karma, never planting the seed of any harm in your consciousness, because you understood that things are a blank screen, a perfect mirror for everything you do. Things are empty of having a nature. So as soon as you put in a negative charge onto that thing, a hurt, you're bound to fill yourself up with the same energy. It's retarded to want to harm something that is just a reflection of you, albeit external looking, etc. Yeah. So if you understood, truly understood, first intellectually, secondly habitually, and thirdly viscerally understood that every single thing your mind lays its hands on, what you say, what you do, what you think. Yeah, your mind jumps on every single thing, colors, shapes, people, sentience mainly, right? Because they're the things we interact with are most volatile. You are just loading yourself up for the same. And if you understood that truly, if you had a direct experience of that, then you know you never screw up again. Until you have that direct experience, you're just always remembering, right? Because we're in another pattern, another habit. So that's why emptiness is the antidote. Then we talked about antidote for what? Do you remember that? We talked about it's an antidote. Antidote implies there's an illness, right? There's a poison. And there are 3. Do you remember those? 3 poisons.
Oh, the 3 poisons.
Easy.
like
Liking ignorantly, disliking ignorant, and the source of those 2, which is ignorance itself. And ignorance is not just you're a dumbass. Ignorance is not that. So change the word for the association for the word. Ignorance means a misknowing. Excellent. A misknowing meaning joy. Meaning. What do you misknow?
Reality.
Yeah, the nature of reality, right? We are stuck in this one tiny spectrum view of, thank you, blessings, one tiny spectrum view of what we think reality is. And even though we can only see this tiny, tiny thing, we think everything is just that. We don't see everything. So we operate towards that, only that, only that. It's such a limited view, we're going to get a limited result. Not only that, it's a broken view. Misknowing means you think things come that way, whereas they really come that way. Yeah, you think everything that's happening to you is because of them out there. And as soon as you meditate deeply enough, you can't find that out there. You can only ever find, quite simply, that every mind projects onto reality its own shapes and colors, not by choice. It's an impulse. Well, we can change the impulse. So instead of projecting normal schmucky, fairly good New York reality, you can project habitually, instinctively, perfect, omniscient, all understanding, at peace reality. So it's an antidote. Emptiness is an antidote to that. Now these are the very basic foundations of all these hundreds of practices that you're going to find in every tradition and so on. But these are the foundations of those. And so Master Shantideva is going through these systematically before he gets to the big practice, right? So he's like, you got to remove those obstacles. The antidote is that. You work on that. But also, you then got to generate goodness. You got to generate powerful forces to counteract the habitual spinning around ignorance. You want to projectile out of that. You want to orbit out of that. And do you remember the collecting goodness? There were 5 practices. The first one is joy, like be happy. Like just generate over and over and over. And I failed so miserably at that the other day. This last couple of weeks, my mind was just attacked by my own mind, right? By own habits of being negative in my mind. And it was just attacked and attacked, and I couldn't break free. And this is the antidote. Emptiness is the antidote, but this, being joy, is the counterbalance, the goodness. Being joyful at every opportunity, happy about doing goodness. So rejoicing, then it was asking teachers to teach, asking them to stay. Do you remember those? Mm-hmm. Yeah? He went through those. Dedication and generosity, a willingness to give. Yeah.
Can you go through the steps for dedication?
I can quickly. You have a specific collection of moments of karma, if you will, an activity you did or a thought you had or something that is beautiful. Yeah, that is good. You know that is a karmic potential, that is a karma, yeah? And it can be a normal shmaki karma, meaning it stays in the samsaric world, or you could save it in the bank for a big bang moment where you break out of samsara, for the sake of every living being, if you can do that, right? So you've got the karma, it's growing in you as soon as you've done the deed, as soon as you've had the thought. Right, so then the thought should occur to you, if you're a good bodhisattva, to go, I better pack this, inject it, like super pack it, supercharge it, and bank it. Yeah? Now, the best way to dedicate is to give it away. Yeah? To give it away. So you should give it away to all these beings that you're going to help. You think of that, you condense it as a thing, and as you're thinking about the karma, you're rolling it into a thing, is the way I conceive of it. I don't know how else to tell you. It's just my habit now with dedication. You're condensing it, sort of what we did in the meditation around the goodness. You played with it. Every time you have a recollection about it, every time you bring your mind to it, it changes a little bit. You're morphing it, you're shaping it, you're making it more powerful, you're making it intense. Now you're making that karma not just a normal, I did a good thing, you're making that activity, you're injecting, I don't know, it's the opposite of radiation, whatever it is, a really beautiful, all-expansive fusion capacity with this particular karma I'm going to use to help every single being. This particular karma I'm going to use for whatever you're dedicating, pointing it, trajectorying it to. Seeing emptiness directly, removing everybody else's suffering. The moment I get a visceral understanding of the direct perception of emptiness, the moment I get dependent origination, the way I serve my lamas, make everyone's suffering be removed, etc., etc., etc. So you're grabbing it, you're injecting it, you're giving it radioactivity, and you're throwing it away. Like, that's it, I'm giving it away. Like, really give it away. I wish I didn't keep this karma. I wish it was over there somewhere. And there's something that happens in the side of your mind that keeps that karma growing, because you just had a movement of mind. Literally, you just moved it. You grabbed a good thing you did. You then colored it and recolored it and spent on it until you know. I don't know how when you know, but I know when I'm overdoing it or etc. And then you push. You give it away. It's bound to come back. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. It's coming back. Yeah.
I wasn't listening to the first half. Did you mention like divine beings seeing you do this?
No, that's nice. Yeah, that's another way of doing it. You bring your teachers, they're witnessing you. You perceive you perceive their minds perceiving you doing a goodness. This supercharge. These are all techniques to supercharge your karma. You know, the beautiful thing about what Steve just mentioned is that if you truly have habituated your mind that enlightened beings are real and possible and engaging with you all the time, trying to engage with you all the time, as soon as you conceive a collection of them watching you, your teacher and all their teachers and their minds, all the way to Buddhas and all the Buddhas and tantric beings and so on, if you can see the tree of those beings observing you do this karma, there's also a perception coloring your karma that says to you, there's a being out of suffering, outside the cycle of samsara, an enlightened mind, a permanent mind, free from cyclic samsara, also witnessing this thing. They're happy for me. And that is an ultimate cause for you to engage with that kind of mind yourself, because you're growing that quality of your mind by conceiving of it. That's a beautiful thing. Yeah, thank you for the remind. That was class 5. Now class 6, we actually talked about, at that point you would either do one of the 2 ceremonies, right? So up to that point you're learning, you're doing practices to remove obstacles and generate goodness, and then you might take one of 2 ceremonies. They give you vows to think and act like a bodhisattva, right? So you take vows at that point. You'll get your vows in the lifespan of a bodhisattva, someone who has bodhicitta, and we become aspiring bodhisattvas. And the first ceremony, you sit down, you understand that this is a possibility, and so you say, I would like the vows, I would like the building blocks for what would let my mind generate this unstoppable force. I know I'm just a schmuck, I know I'll screw it up, but let me please have the conditions. Give me the working tools, the building blocks of wishing to have the wish, wishing to have the thoughts. Give me the wish in the form of a prayer. Yeah? I wish I could generally have. So you'll do a ceremony to do that. Or a year later, you can do it together or you can do it separately. You actually get the vows, the building blocks for acting like a bodhisattva. Let me please do the activity. I know I'll screw it up. I know I'll try as best as I can, but I'm ready. I'm sick and tired of the normal life. I am ready to try this. With those building blocks, I will build myself the unstoppable force machine that is bodhicitta. I know I might not get it, but I'm going to start planting karma so I can get it. So at that point, you'll do the ceremony. At that point, you will take the vows and you'll start keeping those vows and thinking in a special way and acting in a special way, which will look weird to some people initially, especially if you've been a Buddhist practitioner for a while around the Sangha and they don't have bodhisattva vows. You start looking nicely weird. And then, and then after that, you do, which is what we covered in class 6. Immediately after the ceremony, you get this kind of joy. You are forced, you are encouraged, you are asked to spend more time on joy, meaning you get really happy that you just did something amazing. And there's this beautiful paragraph in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara which says that finally my life has some meaning. Yeah, and then you, in your mind, you jump for joy that you've just began planting a seed that will completely break you free from samsara, and everyone that you encounter, every being that is in your mental perception, conception, has now a chance, a possibility of breaking free. Your world will at some point stop being projected as a suffering world because you've grown this unstoppable seed. It's a beautiful moment, and you generate this happiness for A, yourself, and B, for what you can do for others. And then Master Shantideva then goes on about how much joy you should generate for what you can do for others and how you can lead them there, and yourself as being one of the others. Yeah. And then he goes into class 7 and 8, which was, okay, you're happy now, you've got your tool set, you've got your building blocks, make war. Don't forget who your enemy is. You've just planted a most beautiful seedling of the tree of life in your consciousness. And if you don't guard the little bugger, it's going to get trampled by these enemies of yours. And you should not give them a millisecond of your time. You should seek and destroy. Which was such a contradiction for me when I first went to this Buddhist class. I'm like, I thought everyone's supposed to be zen down and kind and whatever. And here's Master Shantideva, our most revered of monks, yeah, of all time, 700 AD. And he's going, kill, destroy, no compassion, don't become friends with them. And he's talking about the 6 main mental afflictions, which are ACI, ignorantly liking. Yeah, meaning, remember we had a discussion, should you not like anything? That's not the point of Buddhism. Buddha likes many things. So don't be ignorant about ignorant liking. Play with your mind and to understand really what ignorant liking means. This is a mental affliction. When you're ignorantly liking, there's a thing happening which is ignorance, right? Misconceiving. You liking something because you think it, from its own side, possesses a quality that is satisfying you, that is going to give you goodness. The second one? Disliking. The third one? Pride. Nice. The fourth one? Ignorance itself. But this was not the ultimate ignorance. This was just not knowing the laws of karma, for example. Not thinking that you're going to have a result from everything you do. Next.
Wrong worldview.
Doubt. Nice. Right? And doubt, he hammered it home on doubt, is that lazy doubt. When you're a schmuck and you know all the logic and you still don't do anything to change your behavior, yeah, no excuses. You just decided you want out of samsara. The enemies are always with you. They're sleeping in your bed, they're in your clothes, they're in everything you eat, they're in every friend you say hi to. It's in your conception. Do not entertain them for a second. Be vigilant, seek and destroy. Ignorant doubt, lazy doubt, lets the door open, the back door open for them. Don't let them in. So whatever you understand, act on it, follow through. Yeah. And then it's wrong view and 5 flavors of that, right? 6 flavors, 5 flavors of that, which gave us 10. But the first of the 6 was citta, right? Which meant the view of
Perishable view?
Perishable view or view of destruction. Excellent. Which is seeing things as self-existent. It is really ignorance. Yeah? It is the pig in the wheel of life. It is the thing that gives birth to ignorantly liking and ignorantly disliking. Why is it called perishable view?
Because it won't
Huh?
last.
Because
Focused on things that end.
it's focused on things that will perish on their own. I like this, I'm going to do all sorts of things to keep this stupid thing, so I like it so much. Yeah, I'm willing to hurt and reject other people, plant negative karmas, because I like this thing that will end anyway, will disappear anyway, it's perishable. It will go away. That's one reason. The other reason is
The view itself.
the view
perishes.
itself perishes. When you see emptiness directly, when you break out of the cycle of samsara, you can't ever have that ignorant perception again. Yeah? So that it's an important one. Then you have like extreme view, which is things exist solidly, which is a flavor of ignorance or a consequence of ignorance or citta. And then you have stupid educated Buddhists who think emptiness means there's nothing that exists. It's the extreme of nihilism, right? And I'm not kidding when I say stupid educated Buddhists, because we do it all the time. Our minds are forever juggling there. If it wasn't juggling there, it would be in Madhyamika, it would be in the middle way. Middle way means that, the middle between seeing things as self-existent and the implication of things being self-existent is that they never change. If they never, you think about that, the implication of things being things from their own side must mean that they could never be anything else. And yet things change all the time. How the hell do they change? So that's wrong. And the other view is, oh, things are empty, therefore it doesn't matter. I can do anything I like. Nothing really exists. My dad had that one. He taught me that one when I was young. Seriously, like I don't know where he got it from. But he used to say to me, things don't exist. So it doesn't matter, you can do anything you want. Someone taught him that, my dad in Argentina. And he taught it to me. And I also, there was something weird about it. And here I am, I find a teacher somewhere in New York in my 20s that demystifies this bizarre thing my dad used to say to us. So then, don't forget the enemy. And then the enemy has 20 little friends and generals to the generals to the enemy. No, the generals are the enemy, and then you've got what?
Soldiers.
The secondary, what?
The lieutenants.
The lieutenants, thank you. I was looking for a hierarchical analogy. Thank you very much. And let's give me some of the 20.
Anger.
Exactly. The first three were anger, and then jealousy, anger, right? But they came from the ignorantly disliking things. So first of all was anger, the first spontaneous moment of anger. Secondly was retaining anger, all the following, that after the person left. You remember Nick was here and he laughed at that after the person left. You're still angry and there's nothing to be angry about because they left. If you really hold true to your ignorant view that things come from things, then that thing left. You're still angry. Right? So then he laughed at that, and then we had malice, which was also like the wish to hurt somebody, post-anger. It was anger. What else? Give me some more. Malice.
Irritation.
Jealousy, irritation. Insincerity, where you're trying to cover up your faults or to try and hype up things that you don't have. Yeah, etc. Get to know them. There's a nice list on the reading. They are important because they are in you. All of them. That's why they're the top 20. I have the more I read them, the more depressed I get.
And that's one of them.
That's one. Okay, so that brings us to this part of the text tonight. There's no clock, although I heard it.
It's
Thank you.
8:30.
Thank you.
Can you just hold that? For
Yeah, just. Thank you. So, do you see how amazing this text is? It's the condensed version of how to practice daily. So now he's going to go into, before he goes into the activities of a bodhisattva, which is the 6 perfections, which we covered lightly at the end. He's going to cover after the ceremony, after you get really, really happy and really generate that happiness, then you get really firm about recognizing who the enemy is. Yeah, the enemy is with you, all the time with you. It is projecting out into the world whatever you experience. Don't waste your time, don't get diverted, don't get distracted that is the angry boss, that is the stupid girlfriend, that is the shitty job, that is the fat stomach, that is, I get lost. Don't get distracted. The enemy is in your mind and it's in your camp and you don't know who it is. And he's describing it to you. All 26 versions of him and 84,000 variations. So once you are firm on that, so you've had the ceremony, you're firm on that, that's one of the things he says, don't forget where they are. The next thing he says is you must have these 2 things always on your mind. Now that you have bodhisattva vows, now that you are aspiring bodhisattva, you truly think you're going to get out of suffering, you better develop these 2 muscles that we tried to develop in the meditation. Did you pick which ones they were? And that was the exercise to get you the 2 states of mind.
I didn't hear that. Can you say that again?
She said single pointedness. Oh. Yeah. So it was I got you to a single pointed meditation so we can exercise 2 muscles that are required to stay single pointedness. So yes, you have to stay single pointedness, but the 2 muscles are
joy and dedication.
No. See if you got it. Maybe I did a really bad meditation.
To see cause and effect of how.
So they relate The reason I did it in meditation is, no, it wasn't causation. We did so many things in that meditation. I wanted to get you to sit on the object, yeah, and have what's called drempa, which is recollection. Recollecting always that moment of goodness. Doesn't matter if your mind went away, just come back to that moment of goodness and expand it, right? Bring your mind back to the object, yeah? That's called drempa. That's called recollection. When we did the meditation course, ACI 3, there were the 5 problems of meditation. The first problem was lelo, remember? Laziness. The second problem was losing the object, forgetting the instruction. The antidote to the second problem is drempa, is recollection, remembering, yeah? Recollection, bringing to mind. The third problem in meditation was agitation, dullness, yeah? And the antidote to that was watchfulness, the alarm bell, yeah? Which is called no? Sheshin, sorry. I nearly said shishin. Sheshin. So this is the 2 things he says, you better build that muscle. Yeah? So drempa,
recollection and watchfulness.
yeah, that's the translation. Geshe Michael said in this class it was difficult to translate. So the idea is not the words, okay? The idea is that you are exercising your mind to return to what the hell you wanted to do, not the world and your mind deciding what you do. You are now a single-pointed, focused bodhisattva. Your goal is get free from samsara for the sake of every living being. You believe it's possible. Whatever tiny belief you have because of logic and reasoning and study, you use that. And if you really believe it's possible, then you better guard that seed that you just planted through the ceremony of bodhicitta, through drempa, recollection. I'll cover that in a second. And then sheshin is the alarm bell that says you're off the object. You're not recollecting what you should be doing, what you should be thinking, what you should be saying, right? Because if the enemy is inside, then you have to be hyper-focused and super-focused on the goal. And that's what we're going to cover tonight. So, recollection. The definition of drempa is holding a virtuous object in your mind and not losing it. That's pretty simple. Yeah. So the definition of drempa, recollection, is holding a virtuous object in your mind and not losing it.
DRENPA.
Yep.
What if you're really good at holding a non-virtuous object in your mind? Is that like the worst thing on the spectrum, or do you at least have the focus that's necessary?
You'll have focus, but it's not drempa. Drempa has the implication that it's a virtuous object. I don't know if there's a Tibetan word for shitty.
Yeah, you can still have
shitty recollection.
You can still have shamatha on anything.
Yeah, on a negative object. Yeah. So this is not shamatha. This is drempa. It's the aspect. That's why he said it was difficult to translate. It's the thing that can keep a virtuous object and not forgetting.
Wouldn't you have agitation if you were focused on a
Negative object? No, you just
Doesn't
don't
it
have
also
wisdom.
depend
You
on
can
the
just have a bunch of ignorance. So classically, there are 2 things you recollect, 2 ultimate things you recollect classically. And then Master Shantideva goes into what he's going to explain, which is a relative recollection. But Geshe Michael then explained in all the texts and all the things, where would Master Shantideva have brought this idea? And there are 2 things we as Buddhists or people Buddha-ing, waking up-ing, must recollect. Yeah, and number 1 is the ultimate goal. As soon as you understand that the world comes from you, as soon as you understand that the condition of samsara is also a projected thing, also a temporal thing, also a changing thing, which includes in it your death, your sicknesses, your things, all those things are changing. As soon as you understand that philosophically, you recollect the goal, which is to get enlightened, to wake the F up. It's not like, oh, I'll do it next week, but now I'm going to the beach, am doing next year or next lifetime. Like really, what if you truly believed, right? It was true and possible. If you understood perfectly that the changing condition of all things points to everything being caused, everything being produced from causes and conditions, and if you could only just find out the causes and conditions to undo the mistaken view and give you a permanent, enlightened, waked up view, you could have perfection. Then all of a sudden the game changes. So the classical thing we recollect as educated, intelligent beings who are not just obsessed with daily consumption is that you can wake the F up. This is like, so Master Shantideva is saying in this section of the text, as you walk around your daily life, now you have some vows, now you've cleared away some obstacles, whatever, you're going to walk around your world, you're going to walk around Manhattan, Brooklyn, wherever you're from, minute by minute, you should recollect. Right? Classically, this means you should recollect, why the hell are you engaged with absolutely anything? It's so you can transform to an enlightened being.
Yes. Thank you.
Everything. That's the first classic recollection. The second classic recollection, which is what we must do 6 times a day if you're taking refuge, right? If you've got refuge vows or whatever. But remember, they say recollect the 3 jewels, right? So if I say to you, what's the first of the 3 jewels? Buddha jewel. So recollect the Buddha jewel. What comes to mind? Yeah, because you're a good trainer and a good student and you're a smart ass. Great. But if I say to someone, recollect the Buddha jewel, the Buddha, for most people, they would think what some dude 2,500 years ago sitting under a tree, or a picture of that person. But what relevance does it have to you? It's sort of disconnected when you generate that. You need to connect it. There's a relevance to doing this activity. It's not just because someone said. It's supposed to turn something on in you. So the recollection, which is fundamental for taking refuge, which is what classifies you as a wake-upist, a Buddhist, yeah, is to recollect the 3 close recollections, they're called, which is the 3 jewels, which is the Buddha jewel, the Dharma jewel, and the Sangha jewel. So let's talk a little bit about how we recollect, the habit-forming recollection of the Buddha jewel. Yeah? Because thinking about some dude 2,500 years ago, it has no relevance at all to my busy New York life with iPhones and so many distractions. How does that help you? But if you think like Rachel said, when you recollect the Buddha jewel, you should recollect predominantly their 3 bodies, right? Which are the Sambhogakaya, the Nirmanakaya, and the Dharmakaya, right?
What was the first one?
Sambhogakaya, which is their enjoyment body, the body that they have perceiving of their own existence in their own paradise, if you like. Yeah? The Nirmanakaya, which is there's 2 classes of Nirmanakaya. There's the classic Nirmanakaya, which is the projection body, right? So as soon the millisecond you reach enlightenment, you get your Sambhogakaya. You see your body not like a non-enlightened body. You see your body as the body of a Buddha. It's a body made of light, it's not made of particles, it's got all these things. The millisecond after, you create the courses for your Nirmanakaya, which is your emanation body. Meaning, at that millisecond, spontaneously, without thinking, I'm going to go and appear on planet Earth or whatever, you spontaneously, as an enlightened being, emanate to countless worlds wherever people have the karma to perceive it. This is your Nirmanakaya. These are 2 physical bodies of the Buddha. But then there's the Dharmakaya, which also has 2 parts, but it's the mind of the Buddha. The second part of the Dharmakaya, the mind of the Buddha, is the emptiness of the Buddha's mind. Meaning, this is what's another name for the emptiness of the Buddha's mind? Buddha nature. Yeah. Sometimes people think Buddha nature is this little seed inside of me that if I rub it, I become a Buddha. Or if I, it, and it's described. I can't remember the name of the Geshe who wrote the book that Jetsun Kappa wrote the Lamrim Chemo from, but something Narim Chemo. He describes it very, very clearly that the Buddha nature means the emptiness of the Buddha's mind. So when you're recollecting, right? So we're talking about Drenpa, recollection. When you're recollecting, classically, your goal, number one, get enlightened. Number two, the three close recollections, which are the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha jewels. When you're recollecting the Buddha jewel, you're predominantly recollecting, remembering that there is the possibility for your mind, which has Buddha nature, which has emptiness. Actually, let me do it this way. You're recollecting you as enlightened beings. What part of you as an enlightened being will remain the same as you are now? Any part? The only thing that remains with you unchanging is the fact that your mind has no nature from its own side. It is empty of having that nature. Because of that, it is possible for you to be a Buddha. If the Buddha's mind was not empty, it would be impossible for him to have become a Buddha, to change into a Buddha. If he was self-existently, it was like the thing I was saying, if he was self-existently that way, in a self-existent reality, in a self-existent body with a self-existent mind fixed, it couldn't change to an enlightened mind, in an enlightened body, in an enlightened paradise. It's really difficult to get a self-existent creature into a self-existent paradise because neither are changing. It's also impossible to get a self-existent mind stream in a shitty self-existent dog world or hungry ghost world if they were both self-existent. The fact that everything we are experiencing changes is that they don't have a nature of their own. The fact that we are all perceiving things slightly different proves that, which makes it completely possible and completely viable that you can be enlightened. It also makes it completely possible and completely viable that you can have a really shitty experience tomorrow, or an awesome experience tomorrow. Things are not fixed. They are empty of having those natures. Those natures rise and come in accordance with your karma, forced upon you by your perceptions. Everything you've ever said and done, the webs I was talking about, everything you've ever said and done, etc., is what forces your reality upon the blank screen.
Then if that's true, how is it ever possible to be involved in your own enlightenment?
How do you mean?
If everything's forced upon you by your karma, how is it possible for someone to be involved?
To have any direction at all, right? It's fatalistic. See, we just went to the extreme of
Nihilism.
No, you actually went to the extreme of self-existence of karma. Yeah. You went to the extreme that, oh, well, he said so, so karma must be that way from its own side. Karma is also empty. You also have the karma of perceiving yourself as being able to influence your karma. Or not? Yeah. Do you not have an influence of the way you look, you talk, you say? To some degree, you have that perception, right?
And even when something happens to you, it's your perception of what is happening to you that creates what the experience is.
But then what's the cause of that perception?
What do you mean?
Of that. What you just said.
Like self-determination.
Free will question, is that what it is?
Well, I'm just saying that if you have the perception that your karma, you know what I'm going at. I mean, what's...
Yeah, but
if you have the perception that your karma is changeable. You have free will. What is the karma for that?
What is the karma to perceive yourself having the freedom of karma, right? I don't know exactly. I don't know that there's a classical explanation. All I know is that that's the experience we have.
I think it would be, I mean, in a dumb answer, it would be a really virtuous karma to have the perception to see yourself as having changeable, like.
Well, what you're really asking about right now is like the unmoved mover.
Is
There's
what?
no beginning. There's no like hand that flicked the domino, according to Buddhism. Right?
Yeah,
Like they
yeah.
don't even start.
But I don't know if you're saying what started it. You're saying what kind of karma. I interpret that as being what kind of karma can I have
Sort
to
of asking
expand
two
that?
questions, I think, at the same time. I guess the question that I'm really asking is, if your karma is being forced upon you,
Yeah,
if your perception is being forced upon you by the karma,
yeah.
how can we have any?
It's just a time delay. It's the force upon you means time delay.
Yeah, but
And so what you're really asking is how can I shrink that time delay until I have instantaneous result of karma, which is Buddhahood. Yeah? You're saying at what point, at the moment the fact is that you do things and they have results. You know that's everywhere on this planet, internally as well as externally. Although externally we think it's mostly where it's at. But internally, you put crap in your mind, you perceive the world as crap. You know that, yeah? So that's caused by more of that before is the best answer I can give you. Yeah? Ad infinitum, to no beginning. The problem we have with karma in our existence is the time delay. Now, we don't seem to have a time delay when we're really interested in the result. Like if we're farmers and we know we're going to get a crop, then we're pretty happy to wait 3 months or 4 months or whatever. Or if we're investing money or whatever, if we're really invested in it, we're very happy to wait for the results because we're physically out there, we can see them. But internally, we don't have that habituation. Buddhist practice, from beginning to wake up to entering the first path and working through the 5 paths all the way up to the point of no more learning, is really about playing with karma with an understanding of emptiness to shrink that time delay and affect the karmas that pop up faster than others, rather than going, I don't really know how that functions. Secret practices are about making those happen at least in one lifetime, if not soon, and having some kind of siddhi or manipulation capacity to say, I can have almost instantaneous result upon my karma the higher you go in the evolution of your mind. Yeah, where you can actually begin to see a whole shaping of those karmas we were just playing with in meditation and turning them into a result linked to your dedication question. Big question, don't give up asking it. I don't know the answer perfectly, but I know I can smell it for me. All I can tell you in practice, I can smell it for me, and for me it's about the time delay. How long is your hose between putting dirty water or clean water in your hose? Your experience of now is the hose coming out. Oh my God, there's dirty water. I'm going to do this to it. Oh my God, it's clean water. I'm going to do this to it. But you actually created that back there at the beginning of the hose when 3 months, 6 months, a year ago. Yeah, and the actions you're doing now are actually altering the water that's being experienced in 3 months, a year.
Isn't there like a teaching or something that says that all beings are moving toward enlightenment anyway? It's just a matter of like how, because I kind of get what you're saying. It's like every little thing is dictated by karma. So in a way, it would just be like the sum of your karma is what is going to ultimately happen to your mind stream. And so in that way, it kind of makes free will a little bit difficult, even if you have the perception of it.
No, it's only if you think of karma self-existently that way. At some point, you are no longer collecting karma. It's actually called the 2 collections. It's John explained it at the last class. When you flip over into Buddhahood, it's not even called karma. A Buddha is still having a movement of the mind and so on, but they're not at the whim of karma, you know. We're not at the whim of karma either. We just appear to be at the whim of karma because we are so disconnected between cause and result that we're over here operating with the result thinking that's where things are. We're not realizing that it's actually a reflection of everything we've ever done and said and think. Your collection of karma is all right now, right here, right now, in your consciousness. A bunch of it, subconscious, a bunch of it you're aware of. All of it in your reality. This is the sum of your karmas. It is rolling moment to moment in the now. All of it. The sounds, the shapes, the feelings, the sensations, the conceptions. It's all now. There's no other mind that you have. It's not back there. And when you play with that in meditation, you get to move pockets of karma. Conceptually, this is metaphors, these are conceptions. Yeah?
And that's why the point of the heavy importance of ethics.
Of ethics, correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And watchfulness.
And watchfulness, which is what we're on. Thank you for returning us. So we are on Drempa, which is recollection. Geshe. Master Shantideva is saying you better have this all the time. Yeah, recollection. So I gave you one of the first classic ones, which was recollecting your ultimate goal, which is everything I do is to get enlightened. Then the three close recollections, which is you should recollect the Buddha jewel, the Dharma jewel, the Sangha jewel. And so as you're walking around Manhattan, you better be thinking, why am I walking around this place? Why am I engaging with people? Why am I eating this? Why am I itching that? Why am I saying hi to that? Why am I working on this? Ultimate goal, number one. Number two, recollect the Buddha jewel. How the hell does that help you? You should be thinking, there is something in the way I conceive of my mind now that can change. It doesn't have to be limited to the way I conceive of my mind now. This training, and you can play beautifully with this. You could watch yourself walking down the street of Manhattan and say to yourself in the recollection moment, which should be happening all the time, there is some connection between me walking these streets and me reaching enlightenment. And then your mind goes seeking for that connection. Mm-hmm. And it should land somewhere on your Buddha nature. The fact that your mind is changing. Ask yourself that question. This is a really good way to recollect as you're walking around doing any kind of activity, helping somebody, eating, walking, getting to work, being at work, doing the work. You ask that there is some special connection between what I'm doing right now and the goal of getting enlightened.
Every moment, yes.
Every single moment. And when you ask your mind that question, the mind will answer it. It's a busy mind. The next recollection is the Dharma jewel, and what is that? At some point, I'm going to have a direct experience of this thing, emptiness. At some point, I'm going to have a direct experience of this thing, and it's hiding behind every single object. The pavement, the people I'm walking past, this person that's saying hi to me. This is the single pointedness, the single focus of a Bodhisattva. This is what you should be recollecting. And lastly, the third of the close recollections is the Sangha jewel, which means you should be recollecting the
people that have seen.
The people that have seen, Aryas, people have seen this. And there are beings around on this planet, breathing as I breathe, that have had this experience. There is some connection between me doing what I'm doing right now and me getting my mind to that state and meeting some of those beings so they can teach me. Now, what's happening in the background? What's the mechanics of your mind as you've infected with those 3-4 thoughts? What is happening to your consciousness as you color it constantly? Habituation of what? You're walking around and I'm saying, doesn't matter if you're having a cup of tea, if you're ordering a sandwich, if you're hailing a taxi, if you're bumping a friend thing, if you're ordering something for your work, if you're sitting in front of your computer, I'm saying, Master Shantideva is saying, you better have Drempa, you better have recollection, which means there's this some connection between what the hell I'm doing right now, which we can do like monkeys most of the time, and getting a mind that has an understanding of that viscerally, seeing my mind have that experience, having my awareness, have that experience. Yeah?
I think for me, the Sangha, the Sangha jewel is also recognizing our effect on the people around us and what we can do to help them in their path. Because it's like this, you know, it's not just receiving, it's giving.
No, the Sangha jewel means anyone that has seen emptiness directly at the ultimate. Nominally it means any Sangha member, any connected person in your Sangha. Traditionally it meant every monk or nun that you saw walking around. But in the point of recollection is like having the flavor in your mind that there are beings who have seen emptiness. There is emptiness itself. And that my mind is empty and therefore it can be changed into, there's a theme, right? Emptiness. Recollection is then saying, remember emptiness. Because if you understand it, everything is possible and changeable. So that's the two ultimate recollections. Master Shantideva then goes into a practice. So now that you're an aspiring bodhisattva, you better have this kind of recollections, not an ultimate recollection like the ones we just discussed. He's saying, what did he call it? Pick a theme for the day. Out of the hundreds or thousands of practices that you'll get exposed to in this tradition or many others, the virtuous, beautiful practices that turn on certain aspects of your mind, whatever they are, and you're going to get 1,000 instructions. As soon as you start digging in, you're going to get do Tonglen, do refuge, remember the 3 jewels, get 1,000 purification. You're going to get 1,000 instructions. Bodhisattva practice. If you've got tantric practice, even more. You've got 247 vows. You've got practices. You have a suitcase full of practices. He's saying, as you develop in your spiritual life, the drempa, the recollection you better have, is pick a theme for your day. And use that to recollect. Use drempa to grow that theme. In fact, pick it for a month or 2 or 3, and this is how you choose where your mind gets directed and not your life decide what your mind becomes. You, despite all odds, have single-pointed focus on what the hell you are becoming. Don't forget the first recollection. You're becoming something. You just planted the unstoppable seed if you took the vows of becoming a bodhisattva. How do you've got to keep single-pointedness, rejecting those 26 and 84,000 enemies, right? Fighting them constantly, and you can only do it with these 2 states of mind, he says. First of all is recollection, drempa. So to habituate drempa, to get that guard, that when I first got this practice, I imagined I met a beautiful Dakini. Her name was Elizabeth. She used to go out raving every evening. She used to come to class and then she'd go out raving. And she would have these most bizarre dances that looked like some Asian martial art dancer, and she looked really strange on the dance floor. But I loved her. She was stunningly powerful. I was so in love with her, right? Shame I was gay. And then I asked her one day, what are you doing when you're dancing like that? Because I was a little embarrassed too. And she said this. I'm imagining that I am the antidote to all these mental afflictions, and she was imagining she was dancing and slashing the 26 and like really fighting them, and I'm like, oh my god, all of a sudden her dance had a most profound and beautiful thing. I fell in love with her some more. Yeah, she reminded me of you. She was like powerful and strong and lovely like that. So Master Shantideva says, pick one thing. Pick the thing you are going to work on and work the hell out of it. Work it with recollection. And it's going to start weird at the beginning because you're not going to remember. So don't add feeling bad. You're focused on building this thing. So out of the 1,000 practices, pick one. Out of the vows, just pick one. Whatever it is, if it's purification, if today you're going to purify, make it all about purification. If today you're going to destroy pride, make your single focus, make it about destroying pride. So your mind should be number one, your drempa should be completely on destroying pride. Everything else earning your living, saying hi to friends, paying your bank accounts, making yourself food is secondary to that main thing. You are in training. You are in training to become the most magnificent, beautiful thing possible, but you're not going to do it half-assed. You're going to do it if you do it. So Master Shantideva is like, don't let up. Your enemies are inside. Build Drempa. Got it? Got Drempa? Okay. Whew. And then he says you also need to build Sheshin, which is the watchfulness, which is the alarm. And if again, remembering Elizabeth, I think of her like a powerful samurai or something. Sheshin is the guard at the 3 doors of expression. Yeah? Sheshin is the guard that sits there and says, you said you were going to destroy pride. Check you out telling that story to that lady as you're doing this. As he sees or she sees, as that guard Sheshin sees your first attempt of thinking pride, instantly it's building a muscle, you're bringing it in, and it's like, shoo, shoo. Yeah? It's watchfulness going, hold on, you just let in pride. And then recollection brings it back and says, okay, I'm on it. It's warning recollection, you just let your guard down, you just let pride in. I thought you were going to work on pride. Sheshin, okay? So these 2 states of mind, Master Shantideva says, are essential for an aspiring bodhisattva. You build these 2 muscles, and we do them in meditation all the time. This is where you begin building them. I loved the beginning of this practice because I really felt that these beings were with me. Yeah? Drempa and Sheshin are real entities that looked like something of your own design, helping you keep guard to this tiny, growing, powerful, radioactive seed called unstoppable bodhicitta, which can destroy every suffering of you and everybody around you. So it's a beautiful thing. So, and the reason he says that Sheshin sits at the 3 doors of expression is because the passage here says, let me see if I read it. Those who wish, Master Shantideva, those who wish to protect their minds should do whatever they can to maintain their recollection, which functions to prevent you from forgetting a particular virtuous object of the mind, and their watchfulness, Sheshin, which examines what is happening with the 3 doors of expression at any time. So what are the 3 doors of expression? What are the 3 ways?
Body, speech, and mind.
Yeah, exactly. So your thinking, yeah, is the ground force, or the, what is it, where they all start. It's the home base, yeah, the mind, because that's where thoughts of pride will become. And then you're going to watch your mouth follow pride out by saying something stupid if you're working with pride, yeah. And then you might do something to be proud, like physically go and put on some clothes or whatever you're going to have to do to try and appease your enemy, which is pride. Right? So the 3 doors of pride can express itself through the way you're thinking about something, which if you're not very careful, if Sheshin isn't watching, if he's asleep at the door, it might come out through you saying something to someone, which inflates your ego and it's about pride, or it might end up becoming an action where you think you're more worthy of this than they are because you're proud. And so you do some non-virtue to try and feed that enemy inside you called pride. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So then let's have a quick break and then we come back to the last summary of the class. Thank you so much for listening. I love this topic. Please keep it in your heart. Grow.